Y'all, poor marketing has finally affected the classics. Hello, everyone. I'm author R.L. Raintree. This is Reels and Reads, where I give honest reviews and occasional spoilers. Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. This is a novel I've been trying to read for quite some time. I was told that it is classic, that it is inspired by Dracula, that it's fan fiction from Dracula, but written back in the 1800s, and that a woman wrote this book. I want y'all to remember that because I'm going to explain why the marketing ruined this book for me that I have been lusting after for so long. But first, let me tell you what the book is about because I do think that you should read it. So the book starts off when Laura was just a small child. She has a terrible nightmare. Of course, everyone comes in to check on her, and she says that something was in her room, and it attacked her. But she didn't say much because it was no big deal to her. Why? Because there was instantly a gorgeous woman there who just lavished her with praises and compliments and held her comfortably till she slept. And of course, everybody's looking like, "Oh, word? Oh, okay. Let's go look." Clearly, they know that there's something that exists that they need to be concerned about, but they refuse to tell Laura because Laura's just too damn fragile. This contributes to her naivete, and it contributes to her being, quite frankly, dumb as dog shit. But we'll come back to that. So they check the room and they have people sit with her just to make sure, of course, nothing comes back. Now, this story is being told from Laura's point of view. So when we fast forward, Laura's a late teenager. It's not said in the book. And I think I should tell you guys, this book was written in like 1819. So there are some things that are implied. So if you're not used to reading classics or you don't look into the background of the book before you read the classic, it's important that you know she's a late teenager, like 17-ish or so. And it's from her point of view. And a young woman named Carmilla, who is close to age in her, I use quotation marks, comes to be in their charge. She is a sickly woman, yes, using quotations again, who, unlike most vampire novels, is able to walk around in the sun. But she cannot handle funeral hymns. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't seem strange to Laura. Laura feels like she got herself a friend. She's got herself a bestie. Mind you, Laura has been betrothed to an older gentleman who is the general. He had a daughter about her age that's dead. And he's out on a quest basically to go do some stuff. And he's got time to waste because Laura's just a young girl. He's been betrothed to her since before she was old enough to even be out on her own. So he's out basically traveling the world because his daughter died and he's looking, for answers or what have you. So this entire time, Carmilla is in her charge, and Carmilla is very sickly. But at some point, that begins to change. Laura becomes sickly, but Carmilla gets healthier. And this also happens to happen when Laura keeps seeing a dark figure in her room. She doesn't know what it is, of course, because Carmilla is locked up in her room and Laura is locked up in her room, meaning the doors are locked from the outside. And yet, somehow, some way, somebody manages to get in her room, and Carmilla's having the same nightmares too. And Laura's getting sicker, but Carmilla isn't. So that's the general premise of this novel. I can't tell you much more than that, otherwise it'll spoil it for you. But I think you guys can pretty much guess where this is going to go. Again, this is written in like 1819, so it's not like the most complicated plot. But back then, I'm sure it was very, shocking and awe-inspiring when they found out what was really going on. Now, let's talk about the stuff that I liked about this novel. What I liked about this novel is how smooth Carmilla was. So we think about vampires all the time and we say they have the gift of gab, they can charm you. But Carmilla is a woman who used society's perspective of women to her advantage to be a vicious beast in disguise. You see, no one questions Carmilla's illness and her sickliness because they all think that all women are just the most daintiest, most delicate creatures there are. So no one questions that this girl has a hard time being up all day. No one questions that she can't stand the sound of funeral hymns because she's sickly. Why would she want to think about death? No one questions that she only eats at night. No one questions that, they kind of did question when they went into her room and she wasn't in there and the door was locked from the outside. But even then they came up with an excuse that perhaps she's a sleepwalker. Yes. Yes, that's why the young child is missing in the middle of the night and cannot be found anywhere. And when she is found, she's found in a place that you thoroughly searched. That's it. Yeah. So I really liked how Carmilla, as a vampire, was able to use the frailness and fragility that which in which with which, excuse me, I'm struggling here, with which they treated women of her age at that time. And so nobody suspected anything. In fact, it is, well, I don't want to spoil that for you guys. There's a character who comes out of the blue and is like, nah, bitch, Spidey senses are tingling. I didn't seen this shit before. How come y'all can't tell? Like, it's obvious to me. And I thought that that was so funny that that character did that, because I was like, exactly, exactly. I've been thinking this the whole time. The character was like, listen, listen, listen. Let me write it down. This bitch, she a vampire, and we finna fucking kill her. That was probably the best part of the novel for me. And I can't even tell you much about it because I don't want to spoil it for you. Suffice it to say that once they find out that Carmilla is a vampire, it's like the characters themselves are being called dumbasses. But prior to that point, you're the one going, is everybody fucking stupid? The whole town is afflicted with this mysterious illness. And it all happens when y'all first meet Carmilla. Like, y'all have burned witches for less. Like, come on. Now let's talk about what I didn't like. I didn't like how dumb Laura was, but I couldn't really grade it down too far for that because Laura sets up her naivete from the very beginning. Remember, she was attacked by a creature when she was in her crib. And by crib, I use that loosely. It just means that she was a small child. It wasn't a crib like what you put an infant in. Or maybe it was. I don't know. I need to look up, the way life was in the 1800s. And she knows she's been attacked, but a beautiful woman came and lulled her to sleep. Now, later on, Carmilla tells her, like, oh, I've seen you before, blah, blah, blah. You know me. And Laura's like, oh, girl, you so crazy. Then at some point, Carmilla is like, I love you. You're beautiful. If I have any love stories to tell, because Laura's like, tell me of your travels. Tell me, you must have fallen in love with someone. You're gorgeous. You're the only person I've ever loved. You're the only person I'm ever going to love. Oh, you mean everything to me. Laura's like, girl, you're just so romantic. Child, Laura's naivete and ignorance was starting to push my buttons. I was starting to lose it with Laura. But then at the same time, every time I found myself getting to that point where I was like, bitch, I hate you. I had to remember that she was raised to be a dumbass because nobody would ever tell her the truth about what was going on. Like, they knew that what they were hearing says that there might have been a vampire in her room, but nobody wanted to say anything because she's so delicate. Even when she gets sick, they're like, yeah, don't let her go past 3 leagues, which is like, a mile and a half, because they think her so delicate. And again, this is how Carmilla got away with doing what she did. So I didn't like how delicate and how ignorant Laura was, but not so much that I would really grade this novel down for it. Now, perhaps the thing I hated the absolute most about this book isn't what's actually in the book. As I said at the beginning, it's the marketing. When you look at this book, this looks like some sort of romance novel. This doesn't look like blood. This looks like red as in the color of love. This looks like it might be a some type of sultry romance novel. I mean, look at how they accentuated the figure of the woman on the cover. Now, the other thing is when you Google this, you'll see words like Gothic, romance, and sapphic. And then vampire, of course. You should only listen to the first and the fourth word. Gothic and vampire. That's it. There is no romance. There is nothing sapphic going on. In fact, the closest we get to that is Carmilla, again, just showering her with verbal and physical affection. But Laura, it doesn't really connect because Laura's like, girl, he's so crazy. Back up off me a little bit, though. I'm betrothed to a general at 17. You know what I'm saying? Like, it never really lands on Laura that Carmilla is shooting her shot. And because it's so unearthing, because Carmilla is so dramatic about it to the point where sometimes she trembles that she lusts after her so much, that Laura thinks, oh, she's just eccentric. Oh, she's just sickly. So it doesn't quite land. So how people got this was a sapphic romance makes no sense to me. Really what it was is Carmilla, as I said, in the things that I liked about this, Carmilla was just using that to distract her from the fact that she's been feeding off of her. That's all that is. So, if you go into this knowing that this is not sapphic, this is not romance, but this is one of the smoothest vampire bitches you'll ever meet, then you're going to love this novel. I give this novel 4.5 stars. Again, the naivete and the ignorance of Laura was really pushing my buttons. So tell me, what was your favorite vampire novel that you've read so far? I would love to read it. And also, were you aware that Sheridan Le Fanu was a man? He writes so well as a woman that I think a lot of people didn't know that this, well, I should say he wrote, he's long dead, was a man, and he wrote from the point of view of a woman quite well. That's another thing that people said about this book that was wrong. It's not written by a woman. And did you know that the vampire stories as we know them today originated in Ireland? So there was an author before Sheridan Le Fanu, and then second was Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla, and then third was Bram Stoker's Dracula, and Bram Stoker was Irish. So although people attribute Dracula to Vlad the Impaler, Dracula is actually Irish. Did you know that? Hop in the comments, let me know, and as always, thanks for watching.